Picture this. You walk into work on Monday, and before you can even sit down, your coworker is already telling you every detail about their weekend argument with their partner. Or imagine meeting a stranger at a party, and within seconds they are describing how they just caught their boyfriend cheating. Or maybe you are scrolling through social media, and someone you barely know is sharing a long post about their deepest fears, their family drama, or their latest crisis. These moments feel familiar because oversharing has become a normal part of modern life. We live in a time where therapy language is everywhere, where social media encourages constant openness, and where boundaries are getting blurrier every year. People feel more comfortable revealing personal details, sometimes forgetting that not every space or person is safe for that level of vulnerability. What used to stay private at home or in a therapist's office now shows up in group chats, workplaces, online posts, and even first dates. Why does this matter? Because oversharing can have real consequences. It affects privacy. It can shift the dynamics of relationships. It can create moments of vulnerability that feel good in the moment, but lead to regret later. And it can leave emotional fallout behind, both for the person sharing and for the person listening. Understanding why people overshare is the first step in learning how to protect your energy, connect in healthier ways, and create boundaries that support real intimacy instead of accidental chaos. What counts as oversharing? Oversharing happens when someone shares personal details that go beyond the comfort level of the listener or the context they are in. It can show up in a conversation where the openness suddenly feels too heavy, too fast, or simply out of place. There is a difference between healthy self-disclosure and too much information. In person, oversharing can feel intense because you see the other person's reaction. Online, the lines blur even more because social media can make private thoughts feel public by default. Common signs. There are a few signs that someone is oversharing. One is when intimate or very private details come out too quickly, before trust has had time to build. Another is trauma dumping during casual interactions, where someone suddenly drops a heavy emotional story into a space that was not prepared for it. Some people find themselves confiding in complete strangers and only realize afterward that they said far more than they intended. Listeners may look uncomfortable or start pulling back. They may avoid deeper conversations in the future. And the person who overshared might initially feel relieved, only to later feel regret, shame, or embarrassment when they replay what they said. Consequences of oversharing. Oversharing can create real consequences. It often leads to a loss of privacy, because once something is shared, you cannot take it back. Some people may misuse the information or use it in manipulative ways. Relationships can become strained when one side feels overwhelmed or pushed into the role of emotional caretaker. For the person who overshares, the aftermath may bring anxiety, loneliness, or harsh self-criticism, especially when they realize they revealed something that did not belong in that moment. Why people overshare. Now we move into the psychology behind oversharing and the many reasons it shows up. Lack of boundaries. Some people overshare because they never learned healthy boundaries. If they grew up in an enmeshed or chaotic household, privacy might never have been modeled for them. As adults, they may still struggle to judge what is appropriate to disclose and what is better kept for trusted spaces. Without a clear sense of where emotional lines should be drawn, everything feels shareable. Social anxiety. For others, social anxiety plays a major role. Talking excessively can become a way to fill silence and reduce tension. Oversharing then becomes a strategy to control the flow of a conversation or to avoid awkwardness and judgment. It is less about wanting to reveal personal details and more about soothing internal anxiety in the moment. Validation seeking. Some people overshare because they long to feel seen. When self-esteem is low or when someone seldom feels understood, personal stories may be shared in hopes of creating quick connection. Oversharing can feel like a shortcut to intimacy. It can even produce a temporary dopamine rush because being heard feels rewarding. The intention is often pure, but the pace is too fast for the relationship. Emotional neglect and relationship gaps. Oversharing can also come from relationship gaps. Someone who feels emotionally unsupported at home may use co-workers, acquaintances, or even strangers as stand-in support systems. Sharing becomes a way to compensate for unmet needs, even though the listener is not prepared to hold that emotional weight, impulsivity, and poor inhibition. Another reason is impulsivity. Some people speak before thinking and struggle with internal filtering. If someone has trouble reading social cues or managing heightened emotion, they may reveal far more than they intended. This pattern is common in moments of stress, burnout, or in certain attention-based conditions like ADHD. Low emotional awareness. Some individuals overshare simply because they are not aware that their sharing has crossed a line. They may not understand how their words affect others. Without emotional regulation skills, everything they feel spills outward without structure. Lack of self-identity. Oversharing can also happen when a person is still trying to figure out who they are. They may use other people's reactions to shape their identity. Sharing becomes a way to test out how their experiences sound or to check whether their feelings make sense. Loneliness. Loneliness is another driving force. When someone is deeply craving connection, even a brief interaction can feel like an opportunity to unload emotions. In these moments, even awkward or superficial connection feels better than none, which makes oversharing more likely. Learned behavior and family culture. Oversharing can simply be learned. If someone grew up in a family of talkers where everything was shared openly and loudly, that becomes their normal. They may not realize that other people's boundaries work differently because oversharing was part of their family culture. Narcissistic drives in some cases. In some cases, oversharing can be tied to narcissistic traits. The person may overshare to dominate the conversation or to keep the spotlight on themselves. Constant attention and affirmation become the goal, not mutual connection. Age-related cognitive shifts. Finally, oversharing can increase with age. As people get older, it can become harder to filter out irrelevant details during conversations. Reduced attentional control makes accidental oversharing more common, even when the person has no intention of revealing too much. Oversharing in the digital era. Social media has completely changed the way we communicate, and it has created a world where oversharing feels normal. For many people, their personal pages have become public journals. Thoughts, emotions, frustrations, and intimate moments that once stayed private are now posted for hundreds or even thousands of people to see. Because posting is available at any moment, sharing can become impulsive. A person might express something in the heat of emotion without thinking about who will see it or how it might be interpreted. Another major shift is what psychologists call the audience effect. Online, friends and followers no longer feel like a small circle. They feel like an audience. Every post becomes a performance, whether someone wants to admit it or not. Likes, comments, and reactions can feel like approval. And when someone craves validation, they may share more and more personal information just to feel noticed and understood. But digital oversharing carries real risks. When too much private information is revealed online, privacy can disappear quickly. Posts can be screenshotted, shared, or misinterpreted. Some people face job repercussions for things they revealed on social media. Others experience cyberbullying, online harassment, or in extreme cases, doxing. Even when nothing dramatic happens, constantly exposing personal emotions can lead to emotional fatigue. The person starts to feel drained because they are giving pieces of themselves away without receiving real connection in return. How to break the oversharing cycle. The good news is that oversharing is a habit, and habits can be changed. The first step is developing internal strategies. Before speaking, pause and ask yourself a simple question like, what purpose does this serve? You can also check in with your own emotions. Are you lonely? Are you anxious or bored? Are you looking for connection, reassurance, or distraction? When you identify the emotion behind the urge to share, you gain control over it. Setting personal limits also helps. Create a mental list of blocked topics, meaning subjects you do not share except with trusted people. Practicing mindfulness and emotional regulation strengthens your ability to pause before revealing too much. The second step is learning social skills and boundary building. Pay attention to social cues. Notice body language, tone, and whether the other person is engaged. Match the pace of the conversation instead of jumping ahead with deep disclosures. And pay attention to reciprocity. If someone is not sharing back, that is a clear sign that the space is not appropriate for personal vulnerability. Active listening is another powerful tool. When you focus on the other person instead of your own story, the pressure to reveal personal details naturally decreases. Instead of turning every moment into a confession, you can connect through curiosity. Ask questions. Listen more than you speak. This creates healthier, more balanced interactions. If you still feel the need to express your thoughts, creating safer outlets is a great solution. Journaling, recording voice notes, talking to a therapist, or using creative expression all allow you to process emotions without oversharing in public spaces. Finally, therapy can be incredibly useful for people who struggle with oversharing. A therapist can help you identify the root causes behind the behavior, whether it is anxiety, loneliness, poor boundaries, or something else entirely. Therapy also helps you build a stronger sense of self so you do not rely on others to validate your experiences. In sessions, you can role-play social situations to practice pacing, conversation flow, and emotional regulation. Over time, you learn healthier communication skills and develop boundaries that support real connection rather than accidental vulnerability.